everyone. I'm Anastasia, America's dental hygienist. I'm here at SAFCO, and I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Dr. Tony Stefanou. He's the founder and president of Dental Sales Academy. Many of us in the dental industry, we know him as Dr. Tony. So Dr. Tony, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Anastasia. Happy to be here.
You know, I'm excited about our discussion today, which involves dentists and dental teams. And so I'm just gonna start off with a couple of questions. Question one, generally speaking, what's most important to dentists and their teams in choosing a dental supply company?
Let's keep it simple. Really three things. First one is, of course, pricing. It's very important because your supply, as far as your overhead goes, is a decent amount of it, and it's important to recognize the numbers a little bit. A lot of people don't always recognize the fact that the average dental practice runs at about 70% overhead. And so even though we like to joke around that dentists are cheap, I like to say that they're cost conscious. And they have to be. So the supply company being obviously an important part and a reasonable amount of their overhead, what you really want is to have a company you're working with that offers low, solid, competitive, fair pricing. The second thing is selection. We understand that not every supply company can have every single product out there. There are thousands and thousands of dental products, but you want to make sure that most of the manufacturers that you like and a lot of the areas that you're looking to do work with and order with are with the supply company. So you want to have a solid selection. And the third, which is really as important or more important than everything else, is customer service. I like to use the word consistency, but you want good, solid, consistent customer service.
Now that is very interesting. But my understanding is that many practices use more than one dental supply company. So why is that?
Yeah, so I actually just did a survey on this, and I thought that the results were pretty interesting. I found that 94% of the practices that I asked about this are using at least two companies, sometimes a third company. And that's a pretty high number. There are a lot of reasons for it, but here are just a few of the ones that I see that are most common. First of all, there are times when you're doing a procedure or maybe you're bringing a new program into the office. We see this a lot with general practices, and maybe the supply company they're using right now don't carry certain items that they need for those procedures, so they have to have a secondary company to be able to use in those circumstances. We also see a lot of times where there are periodic specials that come across that I think is very appealing to them, and so they'll use the company or the secondary company to take advantage of that. And so we see that happening quite a bit. But I think that the third reason is the one that that is starting to increase in the industry, and it's something that I think we have to take a look at, and that is that a lot of the small and the mid-sized practices are feeling right now that since they don't order a lot of volume, they're not really getting the same treatment, everything from pricing to the customer service. They're not getting the calls answered as quickly. They don't get the pricing that some of the larger offices are getting. And so that's a little bit disheartening to them. And I think even though they, generally speaking, don't have a bad relationship with their first or their primary company, they're starting to now look at other options because they feel at this point that they are not treated the way they used to be treated. And I guess that's the best way to put it. We're starting to see a lot more of that as well. So that's one of the main reasons.
I understand that. But that brings me to this point. What would be some of the reasons that a dentist or a dental team might stop using a dental supply company?
Yeah, so there are actually 4 reasons that I have found that are the main reasons that somebody would stop using a company. And this is no different than all of us in real life as consumers. When we've always seen statistics out there, and there have been a lot of articles I've read that the number one reason that someone stops using someone on the outside is because of customer service, and that is the number one reason in dentistry as well. There is a situation where they didn't get a problem handled. Sometimes it's just one time, but sometimes it goes over the threshold. It's happened a few minor incidents, and so they've decided at this point that enough's enough. They like the pricing, they like the selection, but they're not really getting their problems taken care of, and that's number one. One of the things we see a lot of, and by the way, that's completely understandable. One of the things we see a lot of, though, is the second reason is that a new team member comes aboard. A new office manager, a new receptionist, a new assistant, maybe worked in another practice and had a relationship with another dental company or used another dental company for a number of years, and now wants to use that company in the office that they're in. And so sometimes I like to say some of my colleagues as dentists are a little wishy-washy. They say, sure, let's go ahead and just do that. And they just switch for no other good reason then that's the reason to switch. And while that sometimes works out, I have found a lot of times that they regret that decision. I don't really think that's necessarily a good reason to switch companies, but we do see some of that. Of course, another reason would just be across the board pricing. They find a company that is just better overall. I don't think it's really possible to say that every product is going to be more inexpensive or so, but if you see something across the board, sometimes you'll see a switch being made. And the last one is convenience. It has to do with convenience from just working with them. Maybe sometimes they're more local. That makes sense. Sometimes they're getting, it's a little easier to work with them, whether it's online or on the phone. There's a convenience factor sometimes that comes into play. So those are the four main reasons.
That makes perfect sense. Now, you've been in the industry for 30 plus years. So what are some of the changes that you've seen regarding dental supply companies?
Yeah, it's hard to believe I've been out since the mid-'80s, but no question, a lot of things have changed since when I first started. I think the first thing to touch on is the sheer number of choices. And I mean choices as far as product choices. I mean, you could take a look at something like a composite resin. And when I was out, there were a few of them out there. Now there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of them. Forget about things like implants and all these other things that we talk about today, accessory products. There's just a lot of choices out there. So that's one of the things that's changed. Why that's important to note here is that it's interesting in that you want to work with a company that has an organized system so that you're able to look at the choices, see the choices, get informed decisions no matter how you're doing it, whether it's through a catalog online, or through someone else, a rep or something. But there are a lot of choices right now. The second change, which is significant, and that is the colleague chatter, what I call the chatter. Dentists in general are very, very much in on the social media game, more so than any other medical discipline. They talk to each other. It used to be they used to talk to each other only when they got together every second Wednesday to go to a study club meeting, and they talk a little bit about what do you use for this. It's different now. They can get online in seconds and talk about, well, what company should I order this from? Who do you work with? And there's a lot of interaction that goes on, whether it be on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Twitter, groups, pages. We see this all the time. So the chatter has a lot to do with their buying decisions and who they use. And of course, there's a lot of online information as far as the manufacturers go. And that's very important because there are a lot of small and medium-sized manufacturers that, let's just say you're working with a company that has a dental rep. The dental rep can't know, just like the dentist can't know every single product, every manufacturer well. The rep sometimes is working with or they're recommending some products that are from the larger manufacturers. You're not always sure what are my other options. Well, you can get that now where you weren't able to get it before. As a matter of fact, that segues into the last thing, and that is the role of the rep. The reps were, and this is my opinion back in the day, they were a little bit more important when it came to really making those recommendations. They were relied upon for recommendations. My surveys have shown now that the dentists don't mind going on and checking online to find some of that out. Sure, if they have a question, they ask the rep is there to answer it, maybe more immediately. But generally speaking, the information online is so significant now that a lot of dentists can make the informed choices from a supply company, provided that they're organized online and they can really find out the information that they need right now. So lots of different changes out there, but for the better, for the most part, what it really comes down to is access to information.
Well, now that we've gotten all the nuts and bolts, so to speak, let's just summarize it. If a dentist were to partner with a dental supply company, what would be some of the considerations that they would have?
Well, yeah, kind of pull this all together right now. We touched on a little of these as the last few minutes, but definitely pricing. Again, you want to have consistent pricing, and you want the pricing to be able to make sure it works within your budget, and you want to see that consistency with the pricing. So low pricing, fair pricing, important. I can't get into how important the friendly service is. The dental supply companies are out there. They have a tough job. Practicing dentistry is tough. Running a small business is not easy to do. Just like you do in your life at home, you want there to be friendly service. It's very important. You want to see, I'm using the word consistency again, you want to see consistency, and that's everything from how they answer the phone to how the shipping, how your orders come in. Are they clean? Are they organized? Do they come on time? Do they make mistakes? You want to see really solid, consistent, customer-friendly service. And when it comes to that, also the ease of use of working with the company. In particular, when it comes to things like ordering online. I can say this, some of the largest of the dental companies out there, they have tons of choices, they have pretty good pricing. You try to get on there online on the web and you try to order. You can't figure out where to find things. You don't always see where your history is. You want to sometimes do searches that you want. It's like stuff's all over the place. It's very hard to put an order in. Let me say this. Working with a dental supply company, time is the most precious commodity a dental office has. So the service should be friendly, but ease of use is extremely important. And I always like to say your dental supply company should be your partner. You should have a good relationship. Ordering is something that you have to do every month. It's part of being in dental business. It shouldn't feel like a chore. I hate to say this, it should almost feel fun to do. You should be able to knock it off and feel like you feel good about it and you have a general good feeling about the company that you're working with. And I think really that's most important. So there are some things that I'd say absolute. Pricing, but there's so many intangibles when it comes to the emotional side and dealing with the service side that I think is very important right now, and I think are just as important as pricing. So those are what I would say right now. If you're looking to find a new partner, those are the things that you want to consider.
Dr. Tony, I just want to thank you for your information. Your expertise and knowledge is so invaluable that many dental teams and dentists, at least they have a guideline now in where to go in looking for someone for a dental supply company. We both thank you for joining us here at SAFCO.